more heavy snowfall likely by this afternoon and tonight. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a major problem throughout the northeastern states. Some very heavy, wet, slushy snowfall. Still for much of the morning, though, it's been basically a rain event just because temperatures were so mild over the weekend with 50s and 60s. We were reporting still some rain mixing with a little bit of snowfall around the Boston metro area. It's been raining too around New York City and Caldwell and Newark and Wrightstown. There's been some rain too for Salisbury, Maryland and around the Andrews Air Force Base. Obviously, the I-95 corridor pretty wet and sloppy, and we're having some problems too across the LIE this morning. Then across interior sections, though, that's where we're seeing pure snow this morning. And there has been some significant snows from the extreme northeastern corner of Ohio back through Cortland and around the Oneida County areas of New York State. Some locales have already picked up close to 4 inches worth of snowfall. But that will be nothing compared to the heavy snows that we'll likely see later on this afternoon. There's the culprit. There's our low pressure area poised right across the New Jersey shoreline this morning. Again, it continues to draw in moisture from off the Atlantic, colder air too rushing in behind our storm system, and the end result, some significant snow. Again, so far most of the snow from upstate New York and across western New York and western PA. Much of this along the coast is basically rain, but it has been turning over to snowfall in some locations, and that's just a harbinger of things to come. We'll likely see even more snow developing throughout the course of the day. Again, the moisture continues to ride off to the north and the east, and already things are clearing out across the Carolinas after seeing some sloppy weather late in the weekend. Here's our jet stream pattern, and we can see this big trough again setting up for the northeast, and that is our huge winter storm that continues to evolve. The biggest problem we think probably will be the wind and the very heavy snowfall. The heaviest snows around the Poconos today, across the Susquehanna Valley. Heavy snows too for the mid and lower Hudson Valley, up through western and central Massachusetts, and all the way back through Vermont and New Hampshire. Now there are numerous winter advisories, winter storm warnings, and blizzard warnings out for the northeast because again the snow will be coupled by stiff winds, a lot of blowing and drifting snowfall, greatly reduced visibilities, and just some poor conditions for traveling throughout the entire northeastern corridor. And if you think that if you live in a big city you might be spared, think again. There's a chance for some really heavy snows around the Boston metro area where the winter storm warnings remain posted. If you live around Braintree, Brockton, Quincy, you might really get hammered today with the possibility of over a foot of snowfall for some locations. Even around New York City, a chance for 3 to 6 inches of snowfall by tonight. So again, even big cities will likely see some significant snows with this latest storm system. Again, the snow, though, just one part of the storm system. Another key aspect, though, will be the winds. Stiff winds buffeting most of the eastern seaboard, and because of that, numerous gale and storm warnings have been posted. Please be extra careful if you're a boater or a mariner across the northeast because we're definitely going to be seeing some choppy waters and rough conditions, and the worst weather conditions will likely be riding up towards New England by overnight tonight. Hence, storm warnings for this evening from the Merrimack River and then running northward over towards Eastport, Maine. Again, with the strong winds, we'll likely have the possibility for beach erosion and coastal flooding. So again, coastal flood watches have been posted appropriately. Again, we can't overemphasize the point that a major winter storm continues to evolve for the northeast. Heavy snow and hurricane-force winds for some locations. It is going to be a nightmare for traveling. We'll update those traveling conditions and much more coming up in a moment.
Winter in the northeast, but now spring is ready to pull an April Fool's joke on the region. Good morning. Welcome to WeatherScope. I'm Marshall Cease. Rain, high winds, snow, you name it, and it looks like the Northeast will get it between today and tomorrow. For the latest on what's ahead, let's go to Bill Keneally at the update desk in the Forecast Center.
Okay, Marshall, thanks a lot. Again, we had a rather measured response to what we thought was going to happen yesterday. Now we're getting a pretty good handle on the unfolding events across New York City and southern areas of New England, and it definitely does not bode well for travel. New York City is still rain. Boston is still rain. However, in suburban New York, out in western Jersey, in Warren and also Sussex County, snow is now falling, and that rain snow line will be edging to the coast as the afternoon wears on. And that same applies to Boston, the rain snow line pretty much out by I-495. Let's take it back, show you some pictures from the West Andover area. This is north of Boston, about 18 miles or so, and right up again on 93 and 495 there. You can see the folks scurrying to and fro, dealing with rainfall at the time. There is a little sleet mixed in now, and I do suspect that rain snow line is probably just about ready to cross southward through Andover, Mass. So folks up on 495, watch the snow, and the folks on 128 prepare for more rain for a few more hours. But even here, I think you're living on borrowed time. There's more in the way of snowfall coming your way. That is a given. All right, let's show you what's going on now. Let's see the scenario. And you can see our low pressure area deepening very rapidly. Lowest pressure, 993 millibars right now, right near John F. Kennedy Airport in New York City. And that pressure will continue to fall and truly bottom out. And as it does deepen up significantly, the wind's going to tighten up as well. There's a rather strong high we're not showing up around the Maritimes, and that's going to pull that 32-degree air in Bangor down towards Boston, where it's now 39. 37 raining in Albany, 47 raining and raining quite heavily in the New York City area. Around LaGuardia, we've had close to an inch of rain. Allentown, PA, has had about an inch of rain. And guess what? It's now all snow in 34 in the city of Allentown. Well, there's your satellite picture. And again, our surface low pressure area right around New York City. You can see how this little upper air disturbance rotating down here across the Ohio Valley. And the net effect of this is this drops down. It tends to pull the wind back in, and it really grabs a whole bunch of moisture. Look at all these bright clouds here south of Cape Cod, and everything is going to pivot counterclockwise around, and there's going to be just a pounding of snow in the Merrimack Valley, for instance, where there is a blizzard warning up into southern New Hampshire. So that's this area right here we're thinking is going to really get clocked. And again, right now, temperatures are just about freezing, about 37 raining around the Albany area. And as far as New York City goes, still running pretty much in the lower to middle 40s. Meanwhile, around Boston, temperature about 39 degrees, but then it falls significantly. Now, the rain-snow line, to the best of my knowledge, is right about in here. Reading is now snowing. Allentown is now snowing. Monticello is now snowing heavily. Then the rain-snow line is pretty much an elevation event for the time being, running something like this, and then it crosses, again, north of Boston, roughly parallel to Interstate 495, the Outer Beltway. In New York City, we mentioned how it is rain, a lot of wind as well. And again, snowing in Allentown, snowing in Harrisburg, snowing heavily in the Scranton area. We'll put a double star there. And again, that rain-snow line is up here in Warren and also into Sussex County in New Jersey. Then it kind of bends up the Hudson Valley. But again, heading up the thruway today, it's going to get pretty messy as you get up towards Albany. Probably in another 2 to 3 hours, we should be going over to all snow. Boston's now rain about 39 degrees. Boy, this wind is going to be a real big factor. It's an east-northeast wind. The folks on the Cape are going to get buffeted around Provincetown down to about Chatham. And also, this area here, you might remember back in the blizzard of '78 how this area got pounded from roughly Hingham and Hull southward all the way down to about the Plymouth and Duxbury area. So folks in Scituate and also heading up towards the areas near Cohasset, again, batten down. You're going to get blown away with some winds that could be as high as 50, 60, maybe even 70 miles per hour. Coastal flood warnings are up now from the Merrimack River southward to Martha's Vineyard. And as far as the storm warnings go, tell you what, there's our latest storm warning. It runs from Merrimack River to Watch Hill, Rhode Island. That means winds of better than 55 miles per hour can be expected on the open water. And from Watch Hill all the way down to about Savannah, Georgia, we now have a gale warning. For Monday night, we have storm warnings that will be going up for the New Hampshire and also Maine coast. And that looks like that wind is going to be also from the northeast. And believe me, we're going to see some major league seas developing out by Cape Ann and off around the Isle of Shoals there off the New Hampshire coast. And again, it's going to be a major league wind event. High tides will be coming in later on today, then a second high tide tomorrow morning. Now, it's not an astronomical high tide, but nonetheless, just that constant forcing of the water will cause some major problems in the area, so definitely want to keep abreast here at the Weather Channel. And again, the rain-snow line will be descending upon New York and Boston probably before the day is out, if not in the early evening. Now, to get more on what's happening around the rest of the nation, let's turn it back to Marshall Cease.
Thanks, Bill. Bill's going to be leaving soon, too. He'll be up there. We'll be talking with him live from the scene of the action. But we also have some trouble in the west. A system moving across the west is bringing snow to some sections after damaging winds yesterday. Windstorms swept into the Pacific Northwest, creating heavy damage. This is Kirkland, a suburb of Seattle. Winds gusting up to 52 miles per hour ripped debris from homes and even flipped small planes. The systems moved inland. So winds today will be breezy, but nothing like yesterday. Nothing like what you'll see along the northeast coastline either. Here's the way the map looks this afternoon. We've got that big nor'easter that is deepening as we speak. We'll keep you updated all day long here at the Weather Channel. You stay tuned. We're going to see some heavy, heavy snow up in the northeast. Out west, notice all these isobars across the northern plains, tightly packed. That means strong winds. This is a wind machine. It's going to be windy to the south. It's going to be windy out in the plains. And it's going to be a blustery day. March going out like a lion, that's for sure. In the Pacific Northwest, a little bit of rain showers still up around the coast and in the Cascades. Wintry conditions, going to see some snow falling there as well. As this system begins to move to the east, we'll see more snow for the ski resort areas out west. And gosh, are we going to see snow for the ski resort areas of the east? This would be a banner ski season for eastern skiing. Once we get rid of this nor'easter, unfortunately, we expect some damage from that too. That heavy, wet snow. Power lines could be down, trees, and it's going to be an incredibly powerful storm that'll go down in history as an April Fool's storm of 1997. Down in Texas, we're going to see some rain on the increase this afternoon. Heaviest rain, though, of course, is going to be in the northeast along the coast, and very heavy snow. We expect up to a foot of snow, even more, and some of this just till midnight tonight. And the highs, well, the northeast, definitely winter. However, out in the plains and in the central plains, we're going to see temperatures in the 70s, and that spells its own problems for the northern plains, problems with snow melt because of those high temperatures. An awful lot of snow has to melt, and it doesn't have, it's not going to be given a lot of time to do it. It doesn't look like in the northern plains. That's another weather story. We'll keep you advised of that one as well. Stay tuned to the Weather Channel. We'll keep you advised on that big nor'easter in the northeast.
Winds, heavy rain, and yes, some snow. Something that's easy to see in this live picture. Meteorologist Lee Goldberg has been keeping a close eye on the storm. He brings us up to date right now. Lee.
That's right, Lara. Our explosive nor'easter now gaining momentum at this hour. We're seeing heavy rain, wind-driven sheets of rain, 30-mile-an-hour winds and over, and it's just the beginning. AccuTrack doing a nice job picking up all the heavy rains. Little mix over central New Jersey and heavier showers over Westchester County at this time. Let's go to the snow, ice, and rain radar. As the cold air drains in, the rain-snow line inching into the tri-state. Already 4 inches of snow in the higher elevations of northern New Jersey. That's why we have a winter storm warning. Lower Hudson Valley in northern New Jersey, a winter weather advisory. Central New Jersey, eastward for the metropolitan area and the island. This will be coupled with very strong winds, damaging winds, horrendous travel by tonight, and accumulating snows by tomorrow morning. Those snow amounts coming up in the body of the AccuWeather forecast.
I want to point out the higher elevations of Sussex County could see as much as a foot of snow from this nor'easter. We'll keep you updated and have the full forecast coming up later in the news. For now, let's go back to Cindy.
All right, Linda, thank you. The rainy weather is being blamed for a number of accidents this morning. In Newark, a car lost control and slammed into a Shell station on Route 21. It hit 2 pumps and burst into flames.
We'll move off the coast into the Maritimes and cut off for about 36 hours and bring in plenty of moisture out of the Atlantic that'll wrap into colder air. Here's the way it looks right now. You get these isobars this tightly spaced, you know that it's very windy, and indeed we have winds gusting as high as 36 miles per hour, even in Philadelphia out of the northwest where it's just 36 degrees. Very heavy rain right now around New York City at JFK Airport. Boston is currently at 37 degrees. Heavier rain than they're getting right now. It's 41 degrees, winds out of the east, and rain falling with winds gusting to 25 miles an hour. So your wind is coming directly from the east, which of course means the low is still well to the south. This is all snow out in Pennsylvania now. It has turned to snow. We've had some heavy snow out in central portions of the state. Albany, New York is indicating a half-a-mile visibility and heavy snow currently. Heavy rain in New York at JFK, and a half-a-mile visibility and heavy snow with winds out of the northwest and 30 degrees around Utica. And in Philadelphia, it is snowing currently. They're reporting light snow for the most part. We even had a thunderstorm just a little while ago in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and there's heavy rain at Teterboro. That's from that cell right there. Further to the north in Boston, still rather warm up around Boston. Temperatures at Boston right now about 37 degrees, wind out of the northeast at 21, and winds have been gusting as high as 32 miles an hour. Out of the east at Martha's Vineyard and Worcester reporting a 1/4 of a mile and snow. When you get visibilities down to a 1/4 of a mile, you know the snow is heavy. We expect very heavy snow to fall in the north Boston, and then
that we have today. Already some snow across the tri-state. We take you to Morris County and Bud Lake, where we've seen some snow develop. Already 4 inches in some of the higher elevations. A little slick, a glaze on area roadways, and it will only get heavier and windier as we go through the afternoon. Back to a live picture of Manhattan. Gotham shrouded in clouds and rain this afternoon. Heavy rain at times, and it is very windy. The winds gusting over 30 miles an hour. So it's a nasty afternoon when you think 24 hours ago we were headed for 60s and sunshine. Humidity, of course, socked with water in the atmosphere. The pressure is now on the fall. In fact, it's been in free fall, and these barometer readings are going to be below 29 inches by the time we go into the evening hours. Northeast winds 17 miles an hour, already gusting to 30. This storm could conceivably promote 50, 60 mile an hour gusts as we head into the evening with water piling up on shore. We're talking about coastal flooding. That can bring down trees, and along with heavy snow, we get some big problems tonight. No record warmth or cold, but we are in for a record storm. We're talking about thunder showers over the eastern end of Long Island. That rain-snow line is inching eastward for the most part, just in higher elevations now, but between 4 and 8, we see that big transition. Over to the AccuTrack, and again, it's really picking up some of the heavier showers and mixing over central New Jersey. Let's take a trip into Westchester County right now. A little heavy embedded shower west of Rye, and now it moves eastward. Now just coming into Queens, another little moderate shower. So we'll be in and out of heavy rains through the 4 and 5 o'clock hour. Then things start to mix in a little bit. Over to the radar across the northeast, and again, the changeover is occurring. This is just the signs of a moderate storm, but watch what happens over the past few hours. Tightens up, winds up, and all of a sudden you get a full-fledged nor'easter. That's what we got going into tonight. Waves of moisture coming in off the Atlantic now. So this storm is really getting its act together, twisting in all types of rain and eventually snow. Here's some of the cold air dragging in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So it's only a matter of time before the 20s and 30s to our west begin to sneak into the tri-state. We're still trying to hold on to 40s at this hour. So snow way, yeah, we're going to have it. 43 degrees and dropping into the 30s tonight. Let's look into the tri-state for our warnings and watches. We have warnings over the lower Hudson Valley in northern New Jersey. Winter weather advisories elsewhere. That's strong winds and rain going to wet snow, and the all-important snow amounts. Looks like 4 inches of snow in slush metropolitan area. And remember, roadways are warm, so they're likely to just be wet. But visibility, winds very nasty this evening. Travel will still be tough. Then you talk about 4 and 8 when we go over northern New Jersey into Rockland, Westchester, and southern Connecticut. Jackpot of 6 to 12 here through the Catskills and upper Hudson Valley. 1 to 2 feet up in Massachusetts. So we just missed the real brunt of the storm. And then tomorrow, a snowy start, but it really tapers off the heaviest around midnight. Just some snow showers for your morning commute, but we will be in cleanup mode with strong winds at that time as well. Your high of 40, very chilly. Spring will come back a little later in the week. So here's the all-important details of the AccuWeather forecast. Tonight, 30 degrees. We're talking about high winds and wet snow tonight. And then for tomorrow, the wet snow will begin to taper off. Again, looks like about a 4-inch storm in the city, lesser amounts to the south, 4 to 8 north, and even some areas near a foot in the higher elevations. Then we get back to 62 on Thursday. We melt this all away by the upcoming weekend. At least it doesn't last this time of year, but be very careful later today into tonight. We get some nasty travel on tap.
Not sure why I'm thanking you, but thanks nonetheless.
You bet.
Agree. Mike Sheehan is at LaGuardia with the latest on any delays over at the airport.
Standing by in Jersey. Alex.
Hey, Mike, I can tell you it is official. Big, wet, big, huge snowdrops coming down here in New Jersey. In the past 15 to 20 minutes, actually, the snow has really picked up. And you know what that means, of course. That means that the roadways are going to be wet, 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 and getting even wetter. We had some flood conditions earlier on the roads in northern New Jersey along Route 3 and Route 46. You should be seeing some pictures of that. The flooding is going to continue here in the river, which is behind me. It's getting more and more swollen by the minute. The snow is adding a very dramatic, beautiful picture to it all. But I must say it does mean some nasty stuff for the roadways, which means everyone needing to be very, very careful when driving out there. Businesses today are going to be shut down, those that are working out of doors, because it is very, very wet. The snow is beautiful, picturesque, wonderful, although I kind of wonder what I'm doing standing out here in the middle of it. Let's see if we can catch a snowflake for you. I can't believe I can't catch one. They're huge. Oh, there's a few. Well, anyway, you get the idea. They're gigantic. It's coming down hard, so we're going to get back in the truck as soon as we can. Live here in Little Falls, New Jersey, I'm Alexandra Witt, Fox News.
Thanks,
Thank you.
She's wondering what she's doing out there. We've all been there, Alexandra.
Really, Alexandra didn't work last winter during all those snowstorms.
We're getting to work in now.
Yeah, exactly.
Now let's get an update
We
on
had
this
an
mess.
easy winter, and now our spring is not starting out very well. Let's start out with the satellite picture. We'll tell you what has happened so far. basically the clouds with the storm reforming off the New Jersey shore. This storm's going to move slowly off the shore, and it's going to be dropping lots of precipitation, as you can see there on the radar picture. And those showers, and as Alexander was showing you, the snow has already started to come down. We've got 1.33 inches at Teterboro already, 1.18 inches at Newark, 0.94 at JFK, and the snowfall already 3 inches at High Point, 1.5 inches. Also in northwest New Jersey, the temperatures mostly still in the 40s, but a northerly wind will drop those temperatures very quickly. So it looks like we're going to be seeing this rain snow line, which is just about Trenton at this point, change over to all snow by the time we hit our evening commute. It is going to be a mess, and tomorrow morning we're going to see some snow on the ground. It's a heavy, wet snow. It's going to go away quickly, but we should see about 2 to 4 inches here in the city, and then about 5 to maybe even 8 inches as we head on into the suburbs. I'll have the rest of your forecast ahead in a minute.
Thank you, Julie, very much.
This is a special edition of WeatherScope.
It took springtime to bring in a powerful winter storm in the Northeast. It's March 31st, and we're looking at an April Fool's storm that could go down in history with as much as a foot of snow in places like Boston, Massachusetts. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marshall Cease in the Forecast Center here at the Weather Channel. We're watching that northeaster that's developing. It's still deepening. Winds are on the increase, temperatures are on the decrease, and snow is on the increase in the Northeast and southern New England. There are blizzard warnings out for portions of Maine, New Hampshire, and northern Massachusetts, and we're going to take you there all day long today with several crews in the area. Right now, I want to show you what it looked like earlier today in West Andover, Massachusetts, where rain was falling. This was the beginning of the storm, the true embryonic stages, if you will. What you're seeing are scenes shot by our Weather Channel crew there, including Rick Griffin, at areas just northwest of Boston, and the rain is starting to change over to snow. And indeed it has. Just an hour ago in Boston, there was some sleet mixed with rain, and now we've had reports of moderate rain and moderate snow. Temperatures down to 34 degrees, and the dew point temperature about 34 degrees as well. Let's look at the satellite picture. I have a couple of them to show you. One is the first infrared satellite picture. Shows the wrapping around of that low, which is circulating down here, bringing easterly winds along the northeast southern New England coastline, although Boston's wind now has gone from east to a little more northeast and a little more cold air wrapping into that system. Notice how vigorous it is with the winds backing all the way into New York State. Now this next picture I'm going to show you is a visible picture. It shows some interesting clouds, doesn't it, over central and eastern New York State. Looks like they have some body to them. That's where we're getting a lot of vertical lifting. And when you get vertical lifting to the atmosphere, that's where you find the heaviest amounts of precipitation. And indeed in Albany, New York, we're getting reports now of a quarter-of-a-mile visibility, very heavy snowfall. We have 5 inches on the ground at Utica, New York so far, and this is the area where the expectation is for the heaviest amount of snow today. Now down in Philadelphia, it is snowing. It is also snowing up in Avoca, Pennsylvania. There's been several inches of snow that's fallen overnight in north central New York State, and we have blizzard warnings that have been issued for Maine, New Hampshire, and portions of northern Massachusetts for later this afternoon and tonight. As you can see, temperatures are 35 degrees at Boston currently. New York is still at 47. Had a call from a viewer there, however, out in Nutley, which is about 10 miles west of New York City, near Elmwood Park in Paramus, about 9 miles west. And the rain has already turned to snow there. Temperature dropped 8 degrees in the last hour. Up in Albany, 33 degrees, heavy snow. The problem with this kind of snow is it's heavy and it's wet. It could drop some power lines as tree limbs fall on them. Winds are going to be on the increase all day long today. Gale warnings have been issued from Watch Hill to the south and from Watch Hill to Merrimack River along the Massachusetts coastline down through Rhode Island. 55-mile-an-hour plus or storm winds have been issued, advisories. We're going to see some coastal flooding here. And tonight, from Merrimack River northward to Eastport, we have winds in excess of 55 miles an hour projected as well. Here's your radar. Look at this yellow and orange moving into eastern Connecticut and Rhode Island. Bridgeport, Connecticut had a thunderstorm a couple of hours ago, and there could be some more very heavy rain moving into Providence right now and around Hartford, Connecticut, and that could be accompanied by thunder. A little closer to it now, here's Philadelphia and New York. 47 degrees, no snow at New York, but just to the west in this area is where we're snowing now, and some of that snow is heavy. Philadelphia, mostly light snow. The further north that you get, the heavier the snow becomes. And over around Hartford and to the east is where we find that batch of heavy rain and could be in this area turning to snow. Worcester, it is snowing right now. Boston, rain mixed with snow, heavy rain and snow. And the expectation is for as much as a foot of snow in Boston. You could awaken tomorrow morning to 10 to 12 inches. In New York, you can see 4 to 8 inches. Your event will be later this afternoon into tonight. We'll keep you updated here at the Weather Channel every half an hour. Direct to our crews in New York and Boston. You stay tuned to the Weather Channel. Meanwhile, there's other weather that's occurring out there. And Dennis, I understand you have a full briefing for everyone.
Got a very powerful storm off the northeastern coast. It's been intensifying all day, dumping tremendous amounts of snow in the northeast, as well as producing some very, very windy conditions. Let's take a look at some scenes from earlier today in Marshfield, Massachusetts. This is what our team in this part of the state is experiencing tonight. Snow is beginning to accumulate on the roads. Temperatures are in the low 30s, and the wind is making it feel much colder. Winds gusting to 50 to 60 miles an hour. By morning, our crew could be in about a foot of snow. We'll keep you updated. Weather conditions in Salem, New Hampshire here. Snow began falling around lunchtime and hasn't let up. The area is under a blizzard warning, and 10 to 20 inches of the white stuff could blanket the ground by morning. Temperatures are hovering right around the freezing mark. Along the Massachusetts coast in Winthrop, snow isn't the main concern tonight. It's the threat of coastal flooding. Wind gusts are at about 50 miles per hour. The waters are turning rough, crashing against the shore, and a potentially dangerous situation exists for people living along the coast. Well, let's see what's happened so far in the northeastern U.S. and, of course, tremendous amounts of snow falling here already through the Catskills. We've had reports of well over a foot of snow. As a matter of fact, Greene County reports there of 32 inches of snow. So again, in the higher elevations especially, we've had some heavy snow, but it's not only limited to the higher elevations. The lower elevations picking up their fair amount too. Our satellite view shows you in a little more detail where that area of low pressure is really wound up here off the northeast coast, pulling that moisture in, pulling the cold air in, and we're getting snow all the way southward to the Baltimore and D.C. areas, and the snow continues into the northeast too with this area of low pressure. And again, the moisture, the cold air wrapping around our low, and you also notice how tightly the isobars are packed in here, and that indicates to us that the wind is really howling, and that's indeed what is happening. Winds gusting to 40 to 50 to 60 miles per hour, and along the coast the gusts could be even higher than that. So we've got a heavy wet snow falling here from New England and to point southward, and with the wind really blowing out there, we are going to have problems with power outages due to down trees, down power lines, and of course it is not going to be a good time to be out on the roadways either because of the really messy conditions here. And again, this area of low pressure not moving terribly quickly, so the moisture just keeps churning in. The cold air is in place as well. It's been snowing from D.C. to Baltimore to Philadelphia to Hartford. Boston has been reporting thunder snow, snowing heavily there, so a convective situation, and again, this is something to take rather seriously, as I'm sure the folks here indeed are. As far as the totals, this is what we're thinking through noon on Tuesday. Some of the heavier amounts of snow possible here from Connecticut on into Massachusetts, and then on into points northward into New Hampshire and Vermont. And we could even see some heavier amounts than this. As a matter of fact, in parts of New York, of course, you've already seen over a foot of snow. So things are definitely not over yet. It's going to get worse before it gets better. We're going to see snow into tonight, into tomorrow. So look out. This late season storm is certainly still affecting you. Coastal problems as well. Coastal flood warnings in effect here, as we're going to see that wind really piling up the water. We also have very windy conditions, of course, marine and gale warnings here, and we also on into the north have storm warnings in effect as well. Well, that's how it stands for a northeastern storm, but we've got some more interesting weather across the rest of the country. Dan?
Other areas of the United States.
Ashfield in western Massachusetts, also into southeastern New York between Albany and down to New York City, could see well over 1 inch of liquid equivalent once you melt the snow down here in southeastern New England into eastern New England and Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and eastern Connecticut. Also some showers accumulating here across Texas. Snow in the Rockies and a little bit of rain along the Pacific Northwest coast. Let's look at our snowfall forecast. As I mentioned, we've already seen quite a bit in New England. We will see more in New England, but a little further to the east. Looks like the heavy snow band will stretch from near Kennebunkport down in the south corner of Maine through southern New Hampshire, central Massachusetts, Springfield, Worcester, and then on down into northwestern Connecticut, with the amounts finally tapering off. And this is through noon Tuesday. Remember, we will see more as we move into the afternoon on Tuesday. Also some heavier amounts here in the Colorado Rockies, up to 12 inches, and some in the Tetons, the Wasatch, and into the Cascades of Washington. Our lows on Tuesday, except for a little notch of 50s here, stretching up toward Tulsa, chilly all the way down into the south with freeze warnings and frost advisories in effect across portions of the south. Also cool here in the west, getting down to the 20s and 30s. And by Tuesday during the day, we're seeing that warmth spread up ahead of the cold front in the center of the country, but still on the chilly side in both New England and in the northern Rockies, where temperatures will only be getting into the 30s and the 40s for the most part.
And Warren will take that forecast out through the rest of the week.
Right.
But first, traveler's update, and would you believe it, a skier's forecast? We've got plenty of snow to talk about tonight. Join us in a minute.
Stay with us.
This is your local forecast, weather information you can plan on, because we show it on the 8s of every hour. Local on the 8s on the Weather Channel.
What you need.
That low pressure is really winding up on the coastline around New York City and Long Island and back on into Cape Cod. It's been raining. It's been raining up to about Boston, where it begins to get mixed with snow. You go on up into Bedford, Massachusetts, it's snowing quite heavily. on the outside of the 128 loop and then 495. It's snowing, and it's snowing hard back around Worcester and the northwest corner of Connecticut. Hartford is still mixing over, and now going over to snow in Bridgeport, Connecticut. New York City is getting some snow. So we've got an old-fashioned snowstorm going on, a nor'easter that now is really a cold one. The difference between this and some systems that don't turn to snow, you're familiar with the kind that come up and it rains and rains on the coastline and snows inland, is that the upper levels are delivering cold air and a cutoff sort of a low right over the surface system. And that is giving us that change over to snow right now, right down to the coastline, eventually even to Cape Cod and maybe the islands, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and Block Island before this whole thing is over. Wind is the other factor. We're getting winds gusting over 40 miles an hour all the way down to Maryland, Virginia. In fact, all the way to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, you're gusting up to 40 miles an hour around this intensifying nor'easter, and ahead of it, the easterly winds are picking up on the New Hampshire and Maine coastline. High pressure, which will give you near freezing
and west of the actual storm center. Now, along the coast of Massachusetts, you're looking at video of pounding surf. This is at Winthrop, and you can see the rolling surf. This is just the beginning stages as far as the sea is concerned. The storm centered off the coast of New Jersey. It'll continue to move slowly east tonight. It'll head south of Long Island. As it's doing that, it will continue to produce these building seas, seas in excess of 15 feet perhaps. And we do have numerous marine advisories in effect, which we'll be showing you in just a moment. There's your satellite view, and you can see that typical comma-shaped pattern to the clouds, the center of low pressure off the coast of New Jersey, and it continues to intensify at this hour as it moves east-northeast. In some ways, it's being compared to the storm back in April of 1982 on the 6th and the 7th. At that time, we had an area of low pressure similar to this in the overall setup. However, this one's a bit farther south, and it's expected to track a little bit more in an easterly direction instead of the northeasterly track that the April 6-7 storm of 1982 took. However, a reminder, folks in the area, remember that one. It did produce over 2 feet of snow in parts of southern New Hampshire, and you can see on the satellite view, those clouds wrap all the way back into eastern Ohio. This is the type of storm that, despite the fact that the precipitation, rain and snow, will come to an end, we do expect some strong winds to continue with this storm system as it works its way slowly east-northeast. Now, there's the moderate to heavy snow, which continues to fall at this hour. We've had reports occasionally of some thunder snow, most recently around Hartford, Connecticut, reports of thunder and heavy snow, an indication of some of the instability in the air that's getting pulled northward from the Atlantic, running over the top of the warm front and heading back towards the upstate in New York. And we've also had reports of significant snow totals so far from the storm, but it's been an interesting storm for the folks in northern Vermont. Some places in northeast and north central Vermont only getting some light rain changing over to snow in some of the valley floors. Typical spring type situation initially, where we'll have some snow heavy at times up in the hills, but rain down below. Now, out in western Massachusetts, in the town of Worthington, as of 3:10 this afternoon, reports of 7 inches of snow, and it was coming down at the rate of 2 inches an hour. Over in Greene County in New York, around Albany, we've had reports of 14 inches of snow at Windham, And we've had reports also of 14 inches at Platte Cove. And by the way, in Platte Cove, 5 inches of snow fell in 2 hours' time. We've had 8 inches of snow over in Wayne County in Pennsylvania. And down in New Jersey, already in the northwest part of the state, in High Point reports of 10 inches of snow. There's the setup. You can see it's not particularly cold across the Northeast. It's 38 in New York City, and rain changes over to snow in the city tonight, and it continues to accumulate as we go through this evening. So we do expect the travel conditions certainly to worsen as the night unfolds. New York City is under a winter storm warning, so that rain will change the snow in many locations, even on the coast. Officially, they're into Monday night and Tuesday. There's the radar. The big view shows you the intensity of this precipitation coming into southeastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island. The rain snow line stretches from Boston down through Providence towards Bridgeport, Connecticut. That rain snow line will continue to collapse south towards the coastal communities as we head into this evening. And there's plenty of moderate to heavy rain currently falling over southeast Massachusetts. We could see some local flooding as we go through this afternoon before the change over to rain and snow even as far south and west as northeastern Maryland. So you can tell this is a slow mover because this batch of precipitation in Maryland continues to advance south and west. So I wouldn't be surprised perhaps to see some of that snow working its way back into the north side of Baltimore within the next couple of hours, and we do expect heavy snow totals out of the storm. In fact, anywhere from 12 to as much as 18 inches of snow will occur from the northeast part of Pennsylvania, especially around the Poconos, and then heading northeast to the Catskills, and then continuing in a straight line all the way up into the interior of Massachusetts. We'll continue to provide live.
Here's a national radar map for you showing a very chaotic pattern of mountain snow showers in the west and, of course, our storm in the east. The winter storm update coming up. Problem at hand, necessarily you'll have to be very careful in the northeastern United States as we have a winter storm going on, a nor'easter of epic proportions for late March and early April. There's your snowy radar for you moving on through much of the northeastern United States. Some heavy snow moving from northern New Jersey into New York City right now. But let's take that look. East Coast. Unbelievable. Take a look at this particular spinning motion. We have an upper level low that's doing what we call cutting off, becoming its own little part of the world as far as circulation goes. Low pressure is close behind at the surface. The upper level low centered right around New York City, getting colder and colder with time. And as that surface low moves out to sea, it takes the warm air with it, and that's why the cold air is just infiltrating this whole situation. The upper air low is inherently cold and getting colder, and everything is getting colder right now. That's why you have rain gently changing over to snow on the Connecticut coastline, parts of Rhode Island, and rapidly turned over to snow in most of New Jersey as that cold air rushed on in from the west. This in an area, the Northeast Corridor, that was up to about 70 degrees in a lot of the Susquehanna Valley and central New Jersey yesterday, and today it's snow. There's the Boston radar coming on in with rain and snow mixed. Now you don't have to go too far west in the 495 area around Bedford and back toward Lawrence, Mass before you get into some heavy wet snow. Ditto that for Concord. Portland, Maine up toward Waterville is snowing pretty hard right now and accumulating. The Mass Pike is in rough shape, and the hills of northwest Rhode Island beginning to mix on with snow. Northwest Connecticut, Litchfield County is a snowy place to be today. You can see the rotation centering right around New York City, and there's almost a north-south zone of heavy precipitation. We've even had thunder at times in New York City at LaGuardia Airport. right through the Delaware Valley, Delaware Water Gap. It's snowing to beat the band. Heavy snow in spots accumulating to the tune of even over a foot in some of the Catskills of New York. Poconos, 6-8 inches and even more in spots. Utica, New York, 5-6 inches of snow earlier. Trenton, heavy snow. Wrightstown, Lakehurst, New Jersey, it's snowing heavily right now. It is a nor'easter, and it's quite a storm. The rain we were painting in the Hudson Valley is no longer listed as green. So be very careful. It's white. Things are turning white. Pittsfield, Mass, Stockbridge, on toward the high Catskills, Hunter, Tannersville, East Windham, New York, with over a foot of snow reported now. The southern tier, Binghamton, Oneonta. If you're driving along Route 17, the New York State Thruway, be careful. Interstate 80 through Pennsylvania. It's a mess. You'll need the chains in some cases if you want to go uphill to your favorite ski area. 34 in Boston, still hovering between that rain-snow category. Heavy wet snow in Albany with 33. New York going towards snow slowly but surely. But look at these 30-degree temperatures. Rochester, Erie, Pittsburgh. As soon as you get away from the heavy precip, though, it gets up to the 40s in Saginaw and Detroit. Toward the south, we've
something a little warmer. Winter, though, you need to throw in something a little warmer. For the winter, though, you need to throw in something a little warmer.
Well, good afternoon from the Weather Channel Forecast Center. A very busy forecast center, we might add, because we have a storm, a very powerful storm. We haven't seen one like this in quite some time. In fact, some comparisons being made to a storm back in 1982, the April 6th to 7th storm. These are some scenes from Boston, Massachusetts, where high winds, very heavy rain and pounding surf to start the day. Then the cold air starts to collapse towards the storm, which is centered off the New Jersey coast. So rain mixed with snow, and then changes to all snow north and west of Boston. Still getting a very nasty mix of moderate to heavy rain and snow at Logan Field, but you don't have to head too far inland. In fact, probably just a couple of miles, I suspect, before you hit the snow. Now, one place it's been snowing for a while is in Andover, Massachusetts. I believe about 25 miles or so northwest of Boston. And joining us now live is our own Rick Griffin. Rick, why don't you go ahead and give us an update on the changeable weather conditions around Andover?
I tell you, it sure has been changeable, Declan. I was just talking to my cameraman, Pete, over here, and he said yesterday at this time he was out in his front yard doing an Easter egg hunt in his T-shirt. It was about 60 to 65 degrees, but since then, its temperatures dropped about 30 degrees. The wind has picked up to 30 to 40 miles an hour, and as you can see, the flags are whipping around on this restaurant, outside the restaurant, just where we're set up here in Andover, Massachusetts. The snow is falling quite a bit heavier than it was earlier, and obviously is beginning to accumulate. Although since it was so mild yesterday, the ground and particularly the parking lot surface and the highway surface out here on Interstate 93 has been very mild. So accumulation has been very, very slow on the highway surface, and basically it's just slush. Traffic is slowing down, partially because it's rush hour, partially because there's snow accumulating on the highway right now. That's mainly northbound. Southbound, still cars are moving along at a pretty good clip, 30 to 40 miles per hour. We have a lot of cancellations, high schools and other things that have high schools and colleges that have evening classes. All those have been canceled. And we hear that from Logan Field, the airport's still open, but Delta's cutting back on their flights a little bit because of the storm coming in. So basically, we're looking at a pretty good winter storm here, and a completely different weather scenario from the fine weather yesterday on Easter Sunday. Declan?
Okay, again, that's our own Rick Griffin reporting from Andover, Massachusetts, about 25 miles northwest of Boston. We'll be checking in with Rick as we head into this evening, and we had of heavy snow and high winds from this storm over the northeast part of the country. You can see on the satellite imagery the very typical comma-shaped pattern to the cloud field that we tend to find with these well-developed storms. The storm is centered east of New Jersey. It'll continue its slow jaunt south of Long Island, south of Cape Cod and the islands late tonight and tomorrow. It should continue to intensify as it's moving east-northeast. We've had reports of thunder and heavy snow around Bradley Field up in Connecticut at Windsor Locks, and we probably will see a lot more of that as we head into this evening. So just a very powerful storm, and it's really something we haven't seen in a while. You know, we didn't have a storm of this magnitude this past winter season. Thankfully, though, it's been a fairly well-advertised storm, so hopefully a lot of folks have had time to make the necessary plans for what could be a real rough night, because we do expect power outages attributed to the heavy wet snow accumulation on some of the tree limbs and power lines that will take place even along the coast. Now there's the center of low pressure east of New Jersey. It will continue to track east-northeast, as we said, and as it does that, the pressure will continue to fall around the low pressure system. It's not bitterly cold. Boston's at 34 with that nasty rain and snow mix, but it is moderate to heavy snow as you head down to South Weymouth Naval Air Station, just to the southwest of Boston. Wind. This is going to be a big element to this particular weather system. Winds could easily gust in excess of 50 miles an hour, and it's possible that we could see winds gusting as high as 70 miles an hour along the coast of southern New England as we head into this evening. You notice on the regional radar over the northeast, the very typical spiraling band of moisture coming in north of the low pressure system. That will continue to unfold tonight. Moderate to heavy rain right on the coast of Connecticut and Rhode Island, changing to snow tonight, and even as far west and south as Baltimore now. We've noticed the moisture is actually going farther south and west. This is probably an indication that the storm is starting to slow down a little bit. It does appear very likely that this is a storm which will produce some incredibly high snow totals tonight and into Tuesday. We'll keep you updated on this power. Perhaps wind, cold, snow.
Breaking up.
Let's go ahead and turn it over to Rick Griffin, the Weather Channel's Rick Griffin, who's reporting from Andover, Massachusetts, about 25 miles northwest of Boston. Rick, what's the latest?
Well, Declan, the latest is we have a much different weather scenario right now as we had about 12 hours ago. I started reporting on this storm, about 6 o'clock this morning, and at that point we had some light rain and the winds were light, and it was probably 40 to 42 degrees, but now, as you can see, it's a completely different situation with the snow falling just about horizontally, I'd say. The winds are very, very strong. I don't have any way to get a good reading on the wind, but I'm estimating 30 to 40 miles per hour in gusts at least. The visibility is about 1/8 of a mile here, and the snow is beginning to accumulate. But that has been a slow process today because after yesterday's 60 to 65 degree weather, the ground is warm, the parking lot surface here warm, the highway surface conditions out here on Interstate 93 have been warm, and it's just been in the last hour and a half that slush has begun to accumulate on this highway. Now, this is a main artery here in the Boston area connecting Boston, Lowell, and Nashua, New Hampshire, and as you can see out here, traffic is moving along fairly steadily. In fact, our local crew that's with us tells us that the traffic here is not moving too badly, even with the slushy highway conditions. But we do expect conditions to get worse tonight, the winds to get stronger, and the snow to increase, and we'll be live here on the scene with the latest from Andover, Massachusetts. Back to you, Declan.
Okay, again, our own Rick Griffin reporting from Andover, Massachusetts, where the snow continues to accumulate, and we suspect where Rick is just one location of many where very heavy snow will result from this storm. Wind-driven snow, as Rick indicated, and you saw very clearly on the pictures there from Andover, Mass. Now, as we look at our satellite view of the storm, we have a conveyor belt of warm, moist air coming up around the storm's center and running into the cold dome of air, so a very efficient mechanism in the atmosphere to produce the heavy snow. And you can see that the low pressure is east of Jersey, south of Long Island. It may be slowing down just a tad. Some of the satellite pictures we've been looking at late this afternoon indicating perhaps the snow starting to wrap a little farther south and west than earlier anticipated. For instance, from Baltimore, from the city north, the snow has picked up. We've had some reports of the ground starting to get coated up in the north side of Baltimore as you get up towards Timonium along I-83, and the wind also quite strong in the same locations. Overall, the temperatures are really not that bad. Now, sure, it's a terrible change since yesterday's spring warmth, but right now temperatures anywhere from the low to mid-30s, but as Rick indicated, it's the incredibly strong wind gusts that are certainly making it feel a lot colder, with wind chill values running in the teens and the 20s. Now, as far as the marine interests are concerned tonight, this has been issued for that area, and you notice on the radar interpretation just a big spiral band of precipitation rotating into New England, especially southern New England where the rain is quite heavy. We do have the change over to snow. Thunder snow reported in Hartford. That's probably going to continue for the next couple of hours. Also reports of thunder snow as you head up into south central and southwestern Massachusetts. And now as we head farther south, you can see the effects. The moisture is actually starting to rotate far to the south and west. It's down into Baltimore. BWI south of Baltimore, the international airport, reporting some snow right now. It could actually make its way all the way down to D.C. The north side of D.C. could get some light snow very shortly. In terms of snowfall amounts, well, we're expecting anywhere from 12 to 18 inches across northwest to Connecticut. We had a report of 15 inches of snow already. That was in Stamford, in Delaware County, right along the Pennsylvania state line. A very powerful storm indeed. We'll continue to follow it for you tonight as it continues to wreak havoc across New England. There's another big storm going on in the western part of the country. In fact,
and headed for a bridge.
Jerking back and forth, and so it was just we didn't really know what was going on, and then the engine just quit.
We're really fortunate we didn't hit the bridge. I thought if we ever hit the bridge, we were dead.
The crew on the boat towing the parasail could not reel Doug and his daughter in. That's when the Coast Guard took over and pulled them down to safety.
Still ahead tonight, a massive cleanup after a windstorm strikes.
And more on our wet and messy weather situation. Ira Joe's forecast is next. A wild windstorm has left uprooted trees and damaged homes throughout the Northwest. Gusts were clocked at more than 50 miles per hour in the state of Washington, where a homeowner has some serious repairs to make. 3 people were also reported killed in the wake of the storm.
And here at home, you're looking live at the scene near New City in Rockland County, where a spring snowstorm is making life miserable. Yeah, Ira Joe, it's not supposed to happen this time of year. What's happening?
Well, it's what you call a winter storm. And you're saying, how can we have a winter storm in springtime? Well, it's not a spring storm because it's composed of snow in most places. We saw a good example of it. Here's the mass of moisture, the clouds. Well, that was them. We have a winter storm warning in effect in our area tonight through the night into tomorrow morning. The entire area of red here. That's calling for the heavy snow accumulations, particularly inland, where they have already amounted to as much as a foot in places. 6 to 8 inches elsewhere, and it's still snowing. And again, it's just plain icy in other places. Right now, we have temperatures in the 30s around our region. The farther north and inland you go, the closer to, and in some cases below freezing, the temperatures are. That means the snow will stick around through the night and be a problem tomorrow morning for your drive to work or to school, providing there is work and school tomorrow morning. Northeast winds 13, gusting up to 26 miles an hour, 96% relative humidity, and that barometer continues to rise. We can infer from that that the low is, in fact, moving away. Underneath all of the cloud cover, the precipitation continues, and off to the south, it's wet snow mixed in with, in many places, rain. And there's the latest radar picture over the past several hours. Let me get out of the way to get the full effect. This spinning mass of moisture is churning out the snow in the aforementioned amounts. And again, it's not over yet. It's going to move out of our area. The snow should stop from west to east by midday tomorrow. And again, here's what we're talking about for snow amounts. Pockets of as much as a foot, 6 to 12 inches in the blue band. Here in the city, 2 to 6 inches is possible. It looks like if it stays above freezing, the temperature for much longer, it'll be closer to the lower amount rather than the larger. And 1 to 4 inches on Long Island and coastal New Jersey, as well as sweeping into Pennsylvania. Bad storm. Good news is, and you'll see in a moment when we get to the 5-day forecast, temperatures will get back to springtime levels in just a couple of days. Tomorrow morning, you'll awaken to snow. If it isn't falling, it'll be on the ground where it has fallen all night. Be careful, very slippery. But in the city, temperatures will climb into the 40s, lingering in the 30s inland, meaning the snow will stay on the ground and on the surfaces longer there. And that aforementioned 5-day forecast looks exactly like this. 43 tomorrow. Wednesday, plenty of sunshine, which in conjunction with that 51-degree temperature will help to melt the villainous snow. Look at Thursday, completely sunny, 62. Friday, mostly sunny, 63. We'll see some clouds on Saturday, might limit the temperature to about 58 degrees, but let us hope spring uninvited, now that it is finally over.